Xabi Alonso is currently the most talked about manager in world football for two major reasons. Firstly, his Bayer Leverkusen team are playing attractive football, topping the Bundesliga that has caught the attention of, well, everyone. Secondly, Jurgen Klopp has recently announced that he will be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season, which has led many to speculate that Liverpool fan favourite Xabi Alonso may take over as the next Liverpool manager. But there's just one problem. Alonso-ball and Klopp's heavy metal are two very different styles of play, so how will it work at Liverpool? We're going to be looking at the differences between Alonso and Klopp's tactics, why I believe Alonso won't necessarily use his Leverkusen back three formation at Liverpool, and of course using Football Manager to look at the Liverpool squad profile, possible transfers, overachieving and trophy winning tactics. Let's get stuck in. First, let's establish the difference between Alonso and Klopp's tactics with help from The Athletic. Looking at the data viz on The Athletic, Alonso's Leverkusen play more short passes than any team in Europe, and we are looking at the Big Five leagues since the season 2017 and 18. So we can see here already there's a big difference between Liverpool's football and Leverkusen's style of play. Looking at the way the two teams build up is completely different. Leverkusen can start with a flexible back three that can then transition into a back four when needed, and also Leverkusen will use a double pivot, especially when they want to use that third man, as we can see this sequence against Bayern Munich in September. Another difference between Leverkusen and Liverpool's tactics is that Leverkusen play a lot more short passes in the half space compared to Liverpool. Liverpool will play more direct progressive passes and mostly into the wings. As you can see, Trent Alexander-Arnold is the main provider along with Virgil van Dijk, and Liverpool will also play more long balls into the final third than Bayer Leverkusen, as Bayer Leverkusen of course prefer to play very short passes. Off the ball, Leverkusen are set up differently to Liverpool. Leverkusen would of course seek opportunities to high press, but they do allow 13.8 passes per high defensive action, PPDA, a popular passing metric that puts them 7th in the Bundesliga. Liverpool, however, do have a PPDA of 9.2, the fiercest high press in the Premier League. This could be down to player profile. Of course, the player profiles at Liverpool, they are able to do this. At Leverkusen, there were defensive issues when Xabi Alonso first took over. They weren't even playing in a back three. Alonso did switch to a back three, one reason being to shore up that defense. So off the ball, Leverkusen can drop into a sort of 5-4-1 mid-block, making it very, very difficult to play through. Now, if Alonso does move to Liverpool, it doesn't mean that he will have to use the same defensive setup. Of course, the player profiles at Liverpool allow them to high press, whereas that wasn't necessarily the case at Leverkusen. And Alonso is known to be able to be, well, fluid with his formations and his systems, because his first coaching role at Real Sociedad B, he was using more of a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, which we'll talk about a little later, compared to the 3-4-3 or the 3-4-2-1 that he is using at Leverkusen. So Alonso can switch systems. It doesn't mean that he has to transfer his back five formation to Liverpool. If you are new around here, make sure you do like this video. If you aren't new, still like this video, and in the comment section, leave some managers' names, some tactic recommendations for me to do next. Also, check out the Patreon as well. If you can afford it, it will be very, very appreciative if you can sign up to the Patreon and support this channel. Now, let's get back to talking tactics. I've previously done an Alonso tactical video, which was last season, and I will make sure I won't be repeating the exact same thing. So to help me, I will be using a tactical analysis from the footballanalysis.com, but also an account on Twitter, YAlexXO_. I believe his name is Alex, so make sure you go and check them accounts out. In the first phase of build-up, Alonso's Leverkusen will look to create a numerical superiority by having a fluid shape, building with either a back three or a back four, in which their formation becomes asymmetrical as Grimaldo drops to be a part of the back four whilst Frimpong advances high. This sets them up to play through the central areas and progress through it. When progressing, they will look to bait the opposition to press patiently by recycling possession at the back until the opportunity opens to play either of the pivot players. areas. Leverkusen always look for the third man when they're progressing centrally, with the pivot players being key and constantly roaming, providing to be difficult to mark. Players always remain close to each other too. This allows them to make short, accurate passes and at rapid speed, which also has its benefits. When they lose the ball, they are able to instantly counter-press and do it successfully. Xabi Alonso prioritizes playing through the middle, creating numerical advantages in the midfield areas, allowing them to find their passing combinations. Playing with little space between their lines in possession also allows them to play a direct but low pass into the striker's feet as he drops off the attack line, allowing him to either play a wall pass or turn and attack the defense. In possession, they will also look to overload their right side. With their system enabling the right side of centre-back to move to the right-back area, they look to shift the defending team to one side, leaving Grimaldo and Florian Wirtz free on the other. Wirtz can then either hold width and allow Grimaldo to underlap, or Grimaldo can overlap as Florian Wirtz cuts inside, and sometimes this can also work a 2v1 situation. Alonso's team at Leverkusen is known for their dynamic and attacking style of football, which they maintain regardless of their opponent. Their ability to control possession is impressive and often proves to be an important factor in their success. One of the key strategies they use is their fluidity within the system, which allows to rotate positions seamlessly. The players are incredibly versatile and are able to interchange positions at ease. Grimaldo, for an example, typically plays as a left wing back and is known for his ability to move upfield and contribute to the attacking midfield area. They also look to set up in a mid-block out of possession, always trying to stay compact while closing the centre, forcing the opposition out wide. Therefore, they like to play with a highish back line, making the space to the midfield line as small as possible. Bayer Leverkusen like to press high when the opportunity is given. They do this by going into a man-to-man system, vigorously pressing the opposition in their build-up phase. Back to in possession and positioning, many players centrally, creates a numerical advantage in midfield, creates a good structure in defensive transitions too. They can counter press, regaining possession quickly, and have been effective in this area, being able to regain possession around just 7 seconds after losing the ball. So now we're back in Football Manager and we're going to look at Liverpool's squad profile to determine which formation I believe Alonso will look to use if he does go to Liverpool. Now, I did mention earlier, I don't necessarily believe he will use a back three, and just looking at the squad, I don't think it is well suited for Liverpool to use a back three instantly. What he can do is make possible transfers, of course, to allow this system to happen, but still, I just don't believe that at Liverpool, a back three system would be used right away. Furthermore, at Real Sociedad, Alonso predominantly used a 4-2-3-1, but that back three system, when building up, was there as well. What he did have is one of the fullbacks inverting, making a back three, and then they will still have that double pivot in front of the back three, allowing them to progress. So looking at the current squad profile, could Liverpool do this with their current back four? Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Virgil van Dijk and Konate. Could this also make a back three formation? And yes, I believe it can, but there might need to be an addition, a left-sided centre-back, or a centre-back that can play left-back, or a centre-back that can play on the left side of a back three if Alonso does choose to then operate in a back three. For me, bearing in mind, this is Football Manager, the perfect centre-back for me was Nico at Borussia Dortmund, a very good player on Football Manager. This allows us to be fluid. We can sort of play with an inverted fullback, or we can play an inverted wing-back. Inverted fullback with Nico, inverted wing-back with Robertson. Moving into midfield, looking for that double pivot. I've seen many people online suggest that Trent Alexander-Arnold could play this role. Me personally, I don't think that should be happening. This is where another addition can come in for Liverpool, and this is where I brought in Mikel Moreno, someone that does like to dictate tempo, a very good passer of the ball. He's got very good vision, he's composed, concentration and high decision making as well. I believe, again, in Football Manager, he makes a very, very good first phase build up player. And then alongside him, we can either go with Endo if we need a more reserved option, or we can go with McAllister and Gravenberch, two players that are very capable to play alongside Mikel Moreno. So now we switch to the formation screen, so it's kind of easier to visualize this. So now we're moving into our attacking four, sort of. In the middle, we're going to go with Szoboszlai. On the left, we're going to go with Diaz. Now, again, I've seen many people predict a back three for Liverpool, and they've sort of left out Diaz in all the predictive lineups. I've seen Diaz left out, and I think Diaz is very vital for Liverpool, especially again as Salah is getting on. Now, I don't mean to make it sound like Liverpool are an aging side. I don't necessarily believe they are an aging side, but we have to start looking at players' profiles and ages. Virgil van Dijk is 32 and Mo Salah is also 31. Lastly, up top, we're going to go with Darwin Núñez. They do have Jota, they do have Gakpo, but again, these are very versatile players and they don't necessarily have to be fixed in one position. For an example, Gakpo can play in the number 10 area, he can play up front, or he can operate off the left-hand side. Similar with Jota, he can operate on the right, up top, and on the left as well. So it's a very fluid and versatile attacking lineup for Liverpool. Now, doing this tactical test, it actually took about 5-6 days. That's because I had many different variations. Now, you can see the many attempts that I did go through to try and get the perfect solution. And I was kind of looking at the data as well, looking at the possession numbers, the pass completion, the defensive line height, but also the pressing, the PPDA as well. I wanted those numbers to be sort of right for this recreation. So you can see the PPDA, we come in second. With the average defensive line height, we come second behind Manchester City. With the average possession, we are fourth, so 59%, which is still very good. And looking at the pass completion as well, is at 88%, which I believe can be and should be a lot better. So here we are with the tactics with the 4-2-3-1 that Alonso will be using if he goes to Liverpool. We do have 4 different variations. We have the normal 4-2-3-1. We have one with the inverted wing back rather than the inverted fullback. We do have one when we are leading at halftime. So with Real Sociedad, even if I was 1-0 up, I did change to this variation here, and this allowed us majority of the times to win the game. And then we also have one where we have removed play out from the defense, which is what I use mainly at Real Sociedad, because I did notice we made so many unforced errors trying to play out from the back. So looking at the team instructions, the mentality we are using attacking, just to make sure we are on the front foot at all times. The attacking width is set to narrow so we can progress essentially and attack through those middle areas. Passing directness is on shorter whilst the tempo is on slightly higher. We can go just extremely high, but again, those passing completion numbers start to drop, but also the passes completed during games start to drop. We are playing out from the back. In the final third, I do want to work the ball into the box, because what you will notice with this system, the right back is always left with space as you are progressing through central areas. They're defending in the middle. This just leaves your right back out free on that right hand side, and sometimes he would just cross it when there wasn't really a need to cross the ball. So that happened also sometimes on the left, so we are trying to work the ball into the box to try and just put those crossing numbers down, and then we are also running at the defense. In transition, counter press to try and win the ball back instantly, and then if we do go on that counter attack when the goalkeeper's in possession, we do want him to slow down the pace and look for our left side of midfield, Mikel Moreno, to try and get his passing and progressive numbers up as well, and the goalkeeper will roll it out to him. Lastly, out of possession, we have just kept that Jurgen Klopp heavy metal, high press, much higher defensive line, and much more often trigger press. This of course does produce better results in Football Manager, but data, the moment you drop this, your pressing numbers drop, the opposition start to rack up more passes, and that just moves away from a Xabi Alonso recreation for me. So I left the defensive line very high. The inverted wing back one is literally the exact same. This was more for me when I was using different players, so I would use Robertson as an inverted wing back, but I would use Nico as an inverted fullback. So he played more alongside the back three with Nico, but with an inverted wing back, Robertson can then start to move further forward, start making underlapping runs as well. So we've got an inverted wing-back version, and we also got one leading at half-time. What has happened, we removed the counter press, but we have also removed play out from the back, trying to minimize those errors. Like I mentioned earlier, what happens sometimes when you do play out from the back. For the player roles and their instructions in goal, we do just have that standard goalkeeper. Xabi Alonso's goalkeeper doesn't move forward into the defense line to try and be involved in a build-up. We are just using that standard goalkeeper. The left back, the inverted fullback, he's going to be marking tighter, and the two central defenders are just ball playing defenders with no instructions. The right back, complete wing back on attack, taking more risk and marking tighter, taking more risk with Trent Alexander-Arnold in mind, of course. In midfield, we do have a defensive midfielder on defend, just to make sure he holds his position in front of that back line and doesn't wander too much, as we do have a register sort of doing that, and he's going to dribble less and shoot less often as well. Moving into the attack line for the Diaz role, we do have a winger on support, because now we don't have that Grimaldo holding that width sort of, because we don't have a wing back. So now we are going to be using the winger as that player holding the width on that left hand side, and he's going to cross from the byline, again trying to minimize those just early crosses and then hold position as well. I don't want him roaming around interchanging, mainly because I need him to hold his position. In attacking midfield, number 10, we do have a trequartista, a role that we don't use much often in Football Manager. On the right hand side, inside forward on support, Mo Salah, roaming from his position, sitting more narrow. Now the trequartista, inside forward and advanced forward all have roam from position, because it is them three that I want to rotate and interchange in attack. Of course, lastly, we do have the advanced forward dribbling more to carry the ball and roam from position. So that there is the 4-2-3-1, and of course the only role change would be the inverted wing back and the inverted fullback. So now with Bayer Leverkusen, again, we have 3 different variations for different situations. One to kill the game, one with an anchor man, and one normal one. So with Leverkusen, for the final result or the final test, I did of course instant result as I mentioned earlier, but to create the tactic, I did have a different save file, of course, trying to make sure I get the tactical stuff right, of course playing the games then, and then once I got it right is when I done the instant result with a new save. So we do have 3 different tactics here. With the team instructions, it's fairly similar with the Liverpool one. So the attacking width is fairly narrow. We don't actually have play out from the back, because the errors was just, again, errors. Approach play, pass into space. And last year, because I did of course load the tactic that I used last year, we did have hit early crosses. Now hitting the early crosses makes sense. We don't have 2 players on each flank anymore. We just have that one. In transition, counter press, counter. So everything is the same as the Liverpool. And lastly, out of possession, as you can see, our lines have dropped, but also the pressing has dropped as well, because Leverkusen are happy to sort of sit in their mid block, a 5-4-1, without players moving too much from their position, or too many players moving from the position at the same time. And then in the version when you want to kill the game, the mentality is balanced. The player roles and their instructions in goal, just the standard goalkeeper. We have a ball playing defender on the left hand side, dribbling more, a central defender in the middle with that wide centre back on the right hand side, and then he's going to cross less often but dribble more to progress the ball. On the left hand side, the Grimaldo role, we have a wing back on support. The double pivot, we do have a deep line playmaker, tackling harder and marking tighter. With the register, again, tackling harder and marking tighter. But when you are looking to kill the game, or when you want to use the Anchorman version, which I used away from home, Leverkusen, Dortmund, those sort of teams, or just in difficult away games, we are using an Anchorman, just more protection in front of that back line. Moving into attacking midfield, we have 2 attacking midfield on support. One has dribble more, which is the Florian Wirtz, and then the other one just has tackle harder. Lastly, up top, we do have dribble more. Now, these front 3, they could also have roam from positions, which you can add. I'm actually not sure why I have forgotten that. But that there does wrap up the tactics. And lastly, before we go, let's look at the training schedules as well. There's 3 different tests as well. I did one with Liverpool, Real Sociedad, and Bayer Leverkusen. With Liverpool and with Real Sociedad, I played every single game, so there was no simulation involved. With Leverkusen, though, I did just simulate the whole season by instant resulting. Luis Diaz had the highest average rating, Mikel Moreno coming in 3rd, Trent 4th, and Mo Salah 5th. Diaz, the 3rd top goal scorer, Nunes 4th, and Salah in 7th place. I believe Salah did get injured as well, with Diaz with the most dribbles per game. So in the Bundesliga, we were the champions. We got knocked out in the round of 16 by Lazio in Europa, fairly disappointing. But in the DFB Pokal, we did beat Borussia Dortmund 1-0 in the final. Now, again, the average defensive line height per game, we were fairly high. But when it comes to the pressing, the numbers did drop off because now I'm replicating what Leverkusen are doing in real life, which means I had to tone down the pressing compared to what we had at Liverpool. But Leverkusen, we did score the most goals, the most shots for, the fewest shots against. One reason for it is because we were able to hold the ball a lot better now, and as you can see, our passing percentage has increased to 90% while still completing the most dribbles and having the most clean sheets and the fewest conceded. In this test, Victor Boniface was the top goal scorer with 22 goals in the Bundesliga, but just look at the average rating, it is all by Leverkusen. That is how good of a season we had. So for the training schedules, just to make the game more fun, I did make transfers at Leverkusen and at Liverpool as well. Players do get unhappy. I want to keep the team happy for the test, and that gives us the best possible results. But also training helps as well. So I do have training schedules for Saturday. I do have my game schedules on Saturdays and Wednesdays, the only days that matches are. So Saturday, and then we do have one when you do have a game on a Wednesday and on the Saturday. Both Xabi Alonso training schedules. And that wraps up today's video for me. Thank you for your patience as well. It is very good to be back speaking to you. It's very nice to be back as well. Of course, I was going through something, a little mental stumbling block, of course, with the passing of our unborn child. But now I'm back. I've got a smile on my face sometimes as well. Don't forget to make sure you like this video, leave a comment under the video as well, and sign up to the Patreon only if you can afford it, as that helps this channel out massively. I'll see you guys soon. Stay safe. God bless. Thank you for your patience.